Apple and I over the years. You know how the letter I amazes us every time because it is present literally everywhere? Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that today. Hello and welcome to the iGeeksBlog show, an Apple exclusive podcast where we talk about teeny tiny, every possible information about the Apple ecosystem. I'm your host Harshanki, a marketing nerd who likes to eat, breathe, and survive on Apple content quite literally. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing, how Apple keeps using the letter I in almost all its products, like the highest selling products, most of the products to say the least. But how did it just stop suddenly? It kind of blows your mind, right? I mean, how many times have we associated the letter I to an Apple product? So yeah, I'm going to be discussing with you guys everything about that in today's episode. But before that, please do connect with us on our social media channels. We're available as iGeeksBlog on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you want to connect with me and have any kind of Apple or marketing related questions, you can just hit me up on Clubhouse or Instagram. I'm available as Harshanki with an extra I. Lastly, do not forget to download our app iGeeksBlog because it has a lot of exciting information that you may not find on any other social media channels. So if you're an Apple nerd or an Apple geek, you gotta have that app in your phone. Coming back to today's topic, we're going to be discussing why I became such an important element in Apple products. Oh, okay, trivia time. So, when I ask you to name a lot of Apple products, okay, I'm sure you're going to be naming iMac or iPods or iPhones, or like things like this, iPads, right? These are the products I'm going to be naming when I ask you about the products with the prefix I in it. But do you know which was the first product that had the prefix I? Yeah, I'm going to end the suspense right here. The first product with the prefix I was iMac, which came in the year 1998. 1998 has been a special year because not only it gave us one of the most popular PCs ever in the history of the world, also one of the most profitable PCs even till today. It also was the era of internet. So when I talk about the era of internet, it was new and booming, and a lot of things were people were exploring how internet is, the potential of internet, and the world was going crazy about this technology. World Wide Web was fairly new. A lot of companies were booming back then. It was the nascent stage of Netflix, the nascent stage of Amazon, PayPal, and companies like that. Some were still in the ideation stage, and a couple of them had just started selling their products in the market. Silicon Valley was fairly new and populated, and this hustling startup culture, 98 to say early 2000s, that was the time. And this is the exact moment where Apple launched the iMac. So now when internet was booming so much, the marketing team decided to capitalize on that. You know how Apple is so keen on capitalizing on a lot of coming age technology because Apple wants to be known as the future technology, right? It always wants to be ahead of its competitors. Now when you look at the first iMac's design, like how sleek and compact was that baby, right? So if you look at it, it was in a way ahead of its competitor either way. But Apple wanted it to have a close association with internet, and that's why adding the prefix I made a lot of sense. A lot of sense then. And hence it came to be known as iMac. But fun fact, the I in the iMac was not just related to internet. There were a lot of meanings of the letter I. So apparently the letter I is connected to 4 other words as well. Individual, instruct, inform, and inspire. Individual because you know how you always feel a little special about owning an Apple product? So Apple wanted to capitalize on that individuality, and hence the I represents individual, informed, because the device had to be at its informative best. It has to help you with all sorts of information that you need, and Apple wanted it to be an informative device, and hence to use the word inform, they added the prefix I there. Instruct. Apple wanted users to realize how the iMac can be used to instruct a lot of innovations, to instruct innovations in people's mindsets, to instruct them about all the latest technology and information and educate themselves, to say the least. And that is exactly what the word inspire also represents, because iMac was supposed to be the symbol to create amazing products, the symbol to motivate people to create breathtakingly impressive products, the mind-boggling products. And hence this I held a special value. Now what happened was that when you look at iMac, it was finally, after years and years of losses and negative reviews and the Steve Jobs fiasco and a lot of other things for a very long time, right? Apple finally had a profitable product in the market. Not only people loved the iMacs, it was one of the best selling computers ever. All the competitors were left behind. People were in awe of the product. It was adding a lot of appeal to it, and that was bringing a lot of revenue for Apple, and that is how Apple just could not let go of the letter I, and hence a lot of other products came up with the same names. But iPod was not the next product that came up with the prefix I. The next product that came up with the prefix I was iBook. The product which is... Should I reveal it or... Yeah, I guess I'm going to reveal it. So iBook is a product that is now known as MacBook, and PowerBook is a product that is now known as MacBook Pro. So iBook is now known as MacBook, and PowerBook is now known as the MacBook Pro. Now the reason Apple named iBook as iBook was because a year ago they came up with iMac, which was one of the most successful products Apple has ever witnessed. And they wanted to continue using the popularity of the word, and hence they stuck to it. However, our man Steve Jobs wasn't really happy with the name iBook. And you know how sometimes, everyone makes mistakes, right? No one is perfect. No matter how great of a person Steve Jobs has been, he was quite a ruckus to handle when the name was being discussed. So there was this man called Ken Segall and an agency called Shiat Day, who are responsible for coming up with the name iBook. Okay. Now, when they gave the name iBook, what happened initially was Steve Jobs rejected it. And the agency did not hear back from Apple for a good week or so. In fact, Steve Jobs was insisting on keeping the name MacMan. Can you imagine how, he's Steve Jobs. You're creating a product this good, then you are so impressed by the name Mac. Well, doesn't really make sense, right? But yeah, that is what he wanted to have the name of iBook, and he actually rejected the word iBook. In fact, yeah, lot of discussions and back and forth for that. But eventually, Apple decided to go with iBook, because what happened was they started testing a couple of prototypes with the name iBook, and iBook turned out to be a good name to use. It was not only looking good on the profiles, but people were starting to like it internally, and that's why they decided to go with the name. In fact, it was also giving them an added branding strategy that iBook is an iMac to go, because iMac was a PC and iBook is a laptop. So iBook is an iMac to go. And that's how simple the explanation was. And that's how came the second product under the I name. And after that, we've seen a lot of products that we've seen iPod, we've seen iPhone, we've seen iPad, lot of products. So Apple kept capitalizing on this strategy and then named some of the most incredible gadgets that the world possesses today. So coming to think about it, naming it Macman was a lame thing to do. But why didn't they think of the word MacBook before? Why did you have to name it iBook? Because, think of it, no? Macintosh is one of the favorite Apple computers of all time. And he was in the core team who developed it. So, in fact, he was the one of the members who fought for keeping the name intact, right? So, wouldn't it have been a better idea to name it MacBook than iBook? Right? But like I said, a brilliant branding strategy to bank on the success of iMac, they named it this. But eventually they shifted to MacBook and MacBook Pro. And well, the rest is history. But, okay, so you know how Apple can be a little bit of cocky at times? I know I'm too big of an Apple geek to say that, but it doesn't change the fact that Apple can be super, super cocky at times. And Apple pulls out quite a stupid move, okay? So what Apple tried to do is, Apple tried to have a trademark added on the letter I, because they were under the impression that any product, if it comes with the prefix I, the world would imagine that Apple is the manufacturer of it. And it may or may not be the manufacturer of that particular product, which is going to create a bad impression and is going to affect Apple's brand positioning out there in the world. I'm not kidding. They filed a lawsuit when this did not work out. They wanted to trademark the letter I so bad. But the court rejected the plea in the year 2010, saying that, in layman's terms, this is quite bullshit and it is very... Apple is thinking a little too high of themselves to just presume that, the letter I can be connected to their brand. In fact, if I were to quote the exact words, the court even mentioned that any sane person in the world who's active and educated would not mistake the letter I for Apple, which is in a way true. So they could not do it. Now, this is why, what happened was that when a lot of smaller gadgets came into the market, say Apple Watch or say AirPods Max, things like that, when these gadgets came to the market after the year 2010, they were labeled and marketed as Apple Watch and so on. Okay. Now, they could have been labeled as iWatch or, iPods Max or something like that. They could have been, Apple Watch could have been easily named as iWatch. In fact, one of the interviewers had even asked Tim Cook that why did they proceed further with Apple Watch, the name Apple Watch, instead of naming it as an iWatch. Now, Tim Cook, being the diplomat he is, gave a very diplomatic answer that he just liked it that way. That's it. Okay, that's all he mentioned. But think about it rationally, yeah. So, the word Apple is trademarked. Okay, so if the word Apple is there, I was not trademarked. The word Apple is trademarked. So if they have the word Apple as prefix, the world is going to know who has developed the product, who has made the product. And hence adding the prefix Apple made a lot of sense. Another brilliant branding strategy out there. And also satisfying their cockiness a little bit. So this is what they did, and hence now we see a lot of Apple products. Lot of Apple products out there with the prefix Apple instead of the initial I prefix that was being used. But then that also brings us to a very interesting question, is that Are we going to have a change of name in the other products that start with I? I guess not. That wouldn't really make sense, right? I mean, iPhone, I'm not going to call it an Apple phone. I don't think anyone would be able to digest the fact that iPhone would be rebranded as an Apple phone. So the products which are selling in the market and which are like out there are not going to have their names changed ever because they are already positioned as the leaders in the market now. And it doesn't really make sense to, go through all the rebranding process and doing things like that. On the other hand, the new products that have been coming up in the market are coming up with the prefix Apple solely because Apple wants to have its monopoly position there and they just want the world to know that they have created the product and stick to the brand as much as possible. And hence the use of the prefix, even an Apple car, like we're not calling it iCar, we're calling it Apple car or Apple Card for that matter, Apple Music for that matter. Things like that. But then, like a fun trivia for you guys, okay? It's not that Apple hasn't removed the prefix I. They have removed it from a couple of places. So if you've been a loyal Apple user for a long, long time now, you'd know that there used to be an app called iBooks. And now it is just renamed as Books. That happened in the year 2005 or 2006. Please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I guess that happened in the year 2005, 2006. And yeah, so like a few changes hither and thither they've done. Other than that, the best-selling products, the names have remained intact. And this is it. Sometimes, being curious is very important because if you're not curious about such teeny tiny things now, you'd probably never understand these brilliant branding tactics or the marketing strategies that were actually used to name these products and what outcome is it generating for the brand as a whole. I'm going to give you a fun fact before ending this episode. So you know how we are so accustomed to using Google as our main search engine, but come to think of it, there is a person who worked tirelessly to perfect the colors that we see across the display page that we get. Marissa Mayer, the person working for Yahoo now, the creator of Yahoo, used to work for Google before and she tested more than 41 shades of blue color to give us the perfect blue in the navigation bar. Imagine, just so that we could have a calming effect, we could consider the search engine and the navigation bar more approachable, and the result, 10,000% increase in the use of the search engine. Just because she was patient enough to try 41 different colors and give us the color that we see today. So, yeah, like my friends out there, be more curious, try to ask such questions and you'd get some of the most beautiful, motivating, inspiring stories of all times. I in Apple over the years is also a similar story. Well, that sadly brings me to the end of the episode, but I'm sure there are a lot of curious souls out there. So if you want us to discover or cover any such topics, if you had such questions about the Apple ecosystem, then you know what to do. Connect with us on our social media channels. We're available as iGeeksBlog on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Suggest us some topics, ask us questions, and we're going to get back to you. If you want to connect with me in person or just want to have a chit chat about the Apple ecosystem, you can hit me up on my social media channels. I'm available on Clubhouse and Instagram as Harshanki with an extra I. I'm going to see you next week with more exciting piece of content, probably feeding our curiosity or maybe testing a device. You know what to do. Stay safe, stay connected. This is Harshanki signing off.